Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my October reading wrap-up. October was a pretty decent reading month for me because I managed reading a total of 12 books. Most of them are not physical books. Even then, I managed reading a lot of really good books. The one thing which I made sure to do in October was to take things slow and read everything as slow and comfortable as I could. And because of that, I enjoyed almost each and everything that I read. I have 5 physical books, 2 audiobooks and 5 ebooks to talk about. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. Starting with the physical books, the first physical book which I managed to read in October is The Possession of MR.CAVE by Matt Haig. Here we follow our main character Terence Cave, who's an antique shop owner. And Terence has gone through a lot of trauma recently because of the death of some of his dear ones in his life. The first one is his wife, who dies even before the book starts off, and after his wife dies, just a few months past that, his teenage son Ruben also dies because of an accident. And Ruben is the twin of his sister Bryony. Because of this, Bryony and Terence are the only people who live in the family, and apart from them, their maternal grandmother is also along with Terence. Since Terence cannot handle Bryony as she is a teenage girl all on his own, his mother-in-law lends a hand and always helps him for everything that he does. Since Terence has lost both his wife as well as his son to death, he is so much possessive of his daughter, and because of this he inflicts a lot of rules on her and does not let her live a life that she wants to live. The problem with Terence is that he keeps on seeing his daughter Bryony as a small child, even though Bryony is keeping on growing, and he cannot admit the fact that she is also growing along with him. This misunderstanding, at the same time the fear of losing her also to death, make Terence do a lot of horrible things. This is definitely a book that has a lot of trigger warnings, so do look them up before you are getting into the book. At the same time, it is also very depressing in its tone, so if you are going to read this, just go forward and look up for the trigger warnings and content warnings before you read it. Keeping all that aside, I should say that this book was really well written by the author, and I also saw some scenes that are written by the author based on some of his real life events. As a whole, it was a really good book and I rated it 4 stars. The next one is a YA contemporary book, and it is Solitaire by Alice Oseman. Here we follow our main character Tori Spring, who's in the final year of her high school. And the thing about Tori is that she is a very pessimistic person. At the same time, she is also very cynical in the way of life that she lives. She is a person who likes to self-isolate herself from any group of people, and she does not open up to anyone also. Even though she is a person who likes to keep the company of herself, she is always drawn into various social situations because of the groups that she is a part of. At the same time, there is also this blog called Solitaire that is maintained by a group of people who play a lot of pranks inside the school, and no one knows who is a part of Solitaire and who Solitaire is. But as the story progresses on, we understand that Solitaire is trying to get the attention of Tori, even though Tori is not interested in going and meeting them in any way. The pranks that are done by Solitaire keep on escalating until the time Tori pays them any attention. At the same time, there is also this very goofy character called Michael Holden who befriends Tori at the same time. As a combination of all these things, I should say that this was a nice book to read, but it is definitely not the best of Alice Oseman. I can understand why it is not their best, because this was the first book that was written by the author and they were just 17 while they wrote it. I am definitely interested in reading all the other books by the author also, but as a whole, this was an average book from Alice Oseman according to my expectations, and I rated it 4 stars. The next one is a memoir, and it is Dreams from My Father by Barrack Obama. I got this book also for free last year, but finally picked it up now because I purchased the audiobook for this one narrated by the author himself, and I listened to the audiobook and followed on with a physical copy. I should say that it was a really great choice because this is a memoir that deals more with the personal life of Barack Obama compared to his political life. I read The Audacity of Hope far back in August, and I should say I liked that book, but I definitely liked this more compared to that one. The writing in that one is a bit better than this one in my perspective, but as a memoir, I think I was able to connect with this a lot more, and it encouraged me to do some of the things that I'm doing. More than anything, I can say that in The Audacity of Hope, I was to see him more like a president figure, but here I was not able to see him like that at all because he is narrating his own story just like any other human being does. And here I just saw the life story of a person named Barack Obama and not a president. He talks about the place he was born, how he was raised, and the different places he traveled with his mother because of various reasons. At the same time, he did not shy away from showing all his flaws from across all the years that he has lived his life. Personally, I think this is far better than The Audacity of Hope, and I think it can be more connectable for many more people in the world. There is one problem alone which I faced with the audiobook. It is that while he narrated certain parts of the story, I felt like he was intentionally doing a fake accent, and that put me off at many times, and I had to keep the book aside in order to understand it properly. Apart from that, I did not have any problem with this book at all. It was really good and I rated it 4 stars again. The next one is a short story collection, and it is Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. This is the first book that was written by the author, and it is also a Pulitzer Prize winner. Again, it is also the first book that I've read by the author. It is a collection of 9 short stories, and I should say I was just totally stunned while I read this book because it does not have anything different or magnificent in its tone at all, but the way in which the author has written the emotions of these characters, at the same time the way in which she shows the beauty of the mundane things that we do in our everyday life, was just excellent. After reading this book only, I was able to understand that I'm not noticing the beauty of so many great things that are going on in my life on a very daily basis, and it is also aesthetically pleasing in so many ways. Okay, the author just puts you into the place where she's narrating the story. Even though each and every story is just 30 to 40 pages long, you'll be able to see where the story is taking place, and I felt like I was there in that place experiencing the story along with the characters. Personally, I just love that kind of writing, and this was just perfect for it. I'm definitely going to read a lot more books by this author, and I obviously rated it 5 stars. Let's just wait and see if she's becoming one of my favorite authors or not. The last physical book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and this book just astonished me in each and every way possible. Okay, I just thought this to be a dark academia murder mystery novel, but it was just more than that. The first thing which I want to tell about this book was that I thought that this was published in the later 2000s, like 2010 or above, but it was published way back in 1992. Okay, that's even 6 years before I was born, and it did not feel like such an old book at all to me in any way possible. Here we follow a group of 6 youngsters who study in this very elite college in New England, and the basic plot of the story is that 5 of the 6 youngsters kills one, and how they get away from that murder and escape and lead their life. In the beginning of the book, that is in the prologue itself, the author tells us who's being killed. The rest of the book is just how they kill them, why they kill them, at the same time what they are doing with their lives after they've killed them. The writing of the author was just totally out of the world for me in this one. The characters stood out totally on their own, and each and every one of them was a very unique person. There are some instances inside the book where I was able to predict that this character was going to do this thing inside the scene, and it just happened as such. And the author has taken over 8 years to write this book, and I should say that for that amount of effort, it just pays off really well. It is definitely a huge book, and it takes a little bit of time to read, but trust me, it is completely worth it. I also want to read the other books written by this author, but this was so much more than what I expected, and I rated it 5 stars. Moving on to the audiobooks, the first audiobook which I finished is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, which is the second book inside the Monk and Robot series, which is a series of novellas, and it's a sci-fi series. Here we basically follow a tea monk who's a sort of monk that travels along with a robot, and them just having a lot of conversations about life and the things that they discover from each other's world. It is very heartwarming, and it just makes you feel so comfortable. You can read this during any season, but I'd recommend you to read it now because I think this is the perfect weather to read it, and I rated this one 5 stars. The next audiobook which I finished is actually an audio program, and it is The Totality of Possibilities by Louise Hay. I listened to this on YouTube only, and it's just 1 or 2 hours long, and I should say that it is very positive in its tone. Okay, the basic premise of this audio program or audiobook is that everything that is there in the world that you want to do is completely possible because it exists even at this instant. We just have to tap in with those particular frequencies in order to make all those things happen in our lives. Again, this is a book or audio program that is totally based on the law of attraction and how your thoughts just shape and make your life as you want it to be. We are all always caught in this thought pattern where we keep on thinking negative things, and it's always difficult to get out of that pattern and see what is going on in our minds. But with practice, it can be easily overcome, and we can start thinking positive thoughts and make good things happen to us. After reading some of the books that I've read in the past 2 to 3 years, I strongly believe in the law of attraction and the fact that our thoughts only influence all the things that are going on around us. So if you can, just go forward and search it on YouTube after finishing the video. I think it can be helpful for so many people, and I rated it 4 stars. Moving on to the ebooks, the first ebook which I finished is a Tamil ebook, and it is Solaimalai Ilavarasi by Kalki. It was actually available for free in Kindle, and I think it is available for free now also. Here we follow a freedom fighter who lived a few months before India got its independence, and he is a very influential freedom fighter. Because of this, he stirs up a lot of riots, and because of this, he is being searched by the police. During that time, what happens is he accidentally stumbles into this ruined palace of Solaimalai, where the Solaimalai Ilavarasi lived. Solaimalai Ilavarasi means the princess of Solaimalai, and what happens when he stays there is that he gets these dreams each and every night, and in that dream he gets to see the life story of the princess of Solaimalai and what happened to her and her family as a whole. Basically, it is a romantic story that also has a lot of historical events that are tied in properly, along with some of the struggles that were faced by the freedom fighters that we had in our country, and towards the end it will affect you in some way or the other. It was really good, and I rated it 4 stars, but I'm not sure whether an English translation for this is available or not. Next we have a young adult adventure graphic novel series, and it is Lumberjanes by N.D. Stevenson. I read the first 3 volumes of it because it was available in Kindle Unlimited, and after that my subscription got ended, so I did not continue on with the series. Here we basically follow a group of girls who are just a group of lumberjanes who just go into the forest and train for different sorts of stuff. It is kind of like a summer camp, but I should say that the way in which the author has written the story, at the same time the illustrator has given the illustrations, is really good. I don't want to say anything more about this graphic novel series because if you just go in with a blank mind, I'm sure that you'll be able to enjoy it a lot more. I liked all the 3 volumes equally, and I rated all of them 4 stars. And at last I have a manga which I borrowed from a friend, and it is the 3rd volume of A Silent Voice by Yoshitoki Oima. I read the first 2 volumes last month or the month before, I don't remember properly, and there are 4 more volumes of the manga to be read by me, and I should say that since I'm almost halfway into the story, it is really moving in a good way. The time that the author takes in order to make some things happen inside the series is really nice because it just feels very realistic. It talks about very strong things, especially bullying, and how it can affect a person in multiple levels. I'm sure that I'm going to finish this manga series by the end of the year because it does not take that much of time to read. At the same time, it is also really good. I rated this 3rd volume also 4 stars. So yes guys, those are all the books which I read in October, and don't forget to leave your October wrap up also in the comments below because I'd like to know what you've read. And if you've read any of the books that I've talked about in this video, do let your opinions of them down in the comments because I'd like to know them also. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.